I want to come on now to somebody you call the best boss you ever had. Obviously Howard Kendall. Dave was mentioning, we had a chat before you came on and had a chat to us, coming on to have a chat to us, that there was definite rumour mills around Alex Ferguson being sacked from United and Howard Kendall was being sniffed around by United, and obviously Swale snapped him up beforehand. Did you know much about this at the time when he was coming in? And tell me about what made him such a good boss for you.
We didn't know, and I think we were playing away at Southampton. I think we drew away 0-0, and that might have been Howard's first game to observe the game. But actually, Tony Buck, he was always the caretaker. If in doubt, Skip would go in there and never let anyone down, kind of thing, And Howard was in the stand, and then but when he came in, it was a combination of things, really. It's like if you guys work in businesses and you deal with people, and it's about how to set your stall out, how to recognise that it's not my way and the highway and that's it. It's all about galvanising a group of people to your way of thinking. It's about extolling their virtues, and at the same time then recognising the areas of their game that they might want to consider that maybe is something which can improve. Which we can all improve. We all knew that. Even David Silva can improve, or maybe he can't. But most of the players that you think of could, and it was just the way that he set his stall out, because we were leaking goals for fun. So you recognise first and foremost we have to tighten up the back four. So the work he did defensively with us, was unique, and it was something that made you recognise the value in not just communication, but recognising where you were on the pitch in moments of the game, and that not switching off, and always being mindful of passing good information on, nice and early, and taking responsibility as well for every minute of every game. You're always thinking, we'll get one back. So and so will nick one for us. It wasn't that. It was, if you do all that you can in this game and recognise when in possession, out of possession, set pieces, this side of the pitch, that side of the pitch, when to tuck somebody around, when to step in, when to use the ball wide, when to offer it to get it back to open the space. All these things are more, just got you thinking about the game and got you recognising, how much more to your game you had. And it got to the stage where, I knew that I'd had Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Glasgow Rangers that had all been in for me, and they were the top sides at the time. And Howard said, "Look, you're going nowhere, and I know that you're a Blue, and there's so much more to come from you, and let's work on this together." And he just made me feel like I was so important. And I'm sure I had the same conversation with every single player, but he made me feel like I was the only person in the stadium, never mind in the team. You know what I mean? So he had that knack of being able to speak to someone, and he had that intuition to be able to get onto your wavelength, and knew how to light your fires. And he was consistent, and he recognised the time to get the team together, the ways of getting the team together, and then obviously in terms of being on the pitch, recognising what you could do. And there was one game, I don't know if you ever remember it, but we were playing against Norwich, and Norwich were a strong side then. They had some, top players, Rosario, Crook, they had Tim Sherwood, Robert Fleck. The players that they had in the team, it was a strong team. Mark Bowen was left back, Culverhouse right back. They were right up there as being a footballing team as well. They properly played, and we were playing at Main Road, and it was 0-0. And there was about 10 minutes to go, and he chucked me up front with Clive Allen, and I set up Clive for the goal. And it sounds daft, that, because then the following day I was back being centre half again. But he recognised that that's something that he put that responsibility onto my shoulders, that he said, "You can do this for me, go and do it." And I just felt I could do anything. So I missed out on the 1990 World Cup squad to Paul Parker, because he had more experience than me, is what Sir Bobby Robson told me, rest his soul. But he actually told Howard that if I keep progressing the way that I am doing, he said he has no doubts that Graham Taylor will be looking at me as a future England captain. So that's what Howard was, relaying to me. in conversation, and he made me captain. And when you have a season where he comes in and it's someone that you don't know, and he brings players in, everyone's going, oh, it's just the ex-Everton 11 and all this, that. It was far more intelligent than it's ever been given credit for, to be honest. You know, and everyone talks about, oh, there's a drinking culture. There was a culture of bringing people together, but no one said you've got to force this pint down your throat. You know, it was a case of, you know, you in an environment and you listened and you learned. And I was always a good listener. I mean, I got the biggest ears, so there's no reason why I would miss anything. But I would listen, you know, and I would pick information up and just recognise it, you know, a tone and a mood and some body language and all these things you just pick up, and that just doesn't apply off the pitch. It applies on the pitch. You know, and Whitey and I, we had that intuitive relationship. I just knew when to release him and when to give it and go, kind of thing. And I knew when Colin Henry was going to bomb on that I'd step round, because, you know, we were going to have a 3 at the back, and that was fine because we could deal with it 3 versus 3. And so all these things are the things that Howard would just instill in you. And, you know, he passed that baton on to Peter Reid. But Howard, you know, as a man manager, as an organiser, it's a shame that he didn't stay a bit longer and his heart ruled his head and he didn't work out from going back to Everton. I just feel that with a bit more investment and a bit more inspiration and insight from Peter Swales, we could have then really kicked on. And yet, despite having you'd have to say, a solid squad, but not, you know, an overly exciting squad, Peter Reid managed to finish 5th and 9th in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So imagine if it had any investment, or, you know, any kind of inspiration, you know, aspiration from our hierarchy, you know, what we could have achieved then. It was an opportunity. It was definitely an opportunity missed. And as we know, it went from bad to worse there. And the end result was Alan Ball and falling out of the league.
Yeah. Tom, doesn't this sound familiar? So I get made fun of, Paul, all the time by the rest of the MIB team because I'm the oldest one. I'm mid-40s, season ticket holder from '90, and obviously for me, my first captain when I became a season ticket holder at City. And I've been saying this for so long about Howard Kendall that the City fans were so excited that we got a manager of that calibre in who won everything at Everton. And we thought, you know, he's going to do something here. And you've said exactly what I've been saying for several months to the rest of the team, that I think a lot of City fans felt that, my God, we're onto something here. If we can keep Howard Kendall here, you know, not to say we're going to win the Premier League or anything like that, we were going to be a good team and we were going to challenge. And it just needed that little bit of investment, 1 or 2 players here and there. And you know, history could be very, very different for us. And, you know, I bet Howard Kendall kind of kicks himself a little bit because it didn't work out for him when he went back to Everton. And it's frustrating to hear from a player that, he was onto something here and we could have gone on. You know, he brought in Coton, he brought in Quinn, a couple more and him on board. I think we could have really gone places as a team. Yeah.
I mean, ironically, I was at Howard's funeral quite a few years ago now, and I've been working as a club support manager for the Premier League, and one of my clubs is Everton, as I briefly mentioned earlier. And I went down with all the academy staff and we went to the funeral, and you know, the cathedral at Liverpool was full. Completely full, and there must have been another 1,000, 2,000 outside, you know, and obviously Everton was his club, and that was the reason why he left. But you know, I think if we'd been in a similar situation, it was a chance to come back to, say, City for a manager. You know, that there's always that, can I relight those fires, and will it ever happen? And sadly, like you say, he didn't, and he recognises that, or he did. He recognised that when I last spoke to him before he passed away. But you know, it was again, to come back to it, an opportunity lost. But looking at how it was then, and yet how things have materialised to how they are today, you know, it's. I keep coming back to it. You know, it isn't just pinch yourself time. We're just so lucky. We really are so lucky.
How things have changed. Do you mind me asking about the Italian 90 provisional squad and how that worked? Did you say it was Paul Parker that took your position?
Yeah, well, we had to train together. And then I roomed with a player. Do you remember Steve Bull, who was at Wolves? He actually went with them.
Great player.
Yeah, great player. Good lad and a great player. And we trained together and we did some fitness work together as well. And there was the probables and the possibles, and the possibles then had to go from there and played an England B game over in Ireland, ironically against Quinny, and Tony Adams was playing for us, and Quinny had him, all over the place, and ironically we lost that game, but I just knew that I wasn't going to be involved, just because of I don't know, there was just something in the attitude and the tone and the whole environment. There was Matt Le Tissier was in that squad, there was players like David Batty, and so it was a younger element anyway, but it was, we had England 21 games, and I played several of those and done quite well. I mean, Bob Brightwell, Whitey, Veddo had all played and all done well. And, so it was a good grounding, and having your England caps, albeit 21s, is still, special. And it was, the conversation that, I had with Howard that made me realise that Sir Bobby had his eye on me. And he'd been to watch a few games, and Howard relayed the messages from him. And ironically, when I was at Lilleshall doing my rehab, Graham Taylor came to the rehab site because they were there doing some training there or something, and he came to find me and said, "Look, this is the information that I've got. I've obviously kept tabs on you. You played in fantastic well against us when you beat us in the cup for Watford, and just good luck. Get yourself fit and get back in this squad of mine." And that was quite uplifting. But obviously that was before it broke down the second time, and that's when obviously I went over to the States.
You've had you've been inducted into the Man City Hall of Fame, and me and Dave were talking about this before. And what year was that, Paul? What year did
that would have been? I think it was 87 to 92. So it was like a 5-year period.
To be mentioned in the same breath in conversations and sentences as your Colin Bells, your David Silvers, that must be amazing for a Blue. That must be for you. Who came to you and told you that was going to happen? And did you believe them at first?
No, I didn't. And yeah, when and I actually thought, it was kind of a bit of a nice touch because of what I'd been through. But then, when they spoke to me and said, no, it was about your potential, and there was a piece of artwork in one of these city guest areas that it said that it was the best player you never saw, which was quite nice, but also a little bit haunting. And when I worked there, sitting in the community, and I'd do work on match days, I'd be working with my heroes. So again, Busman's Holiday, I'm working with Colin Bell, I'm working with Peter Barnes, Joe Corrigan, Gary Owen, Tommy Booth, all these guys, and they were my heroes. And yet we're talking, as we're talking now, and even those things you don't take for granted, So seeing their names on in and around the stadium, and then seeing my name there was I got a letter from City saying that this is what was happening, and then obviously you get invited down on the day, and you're wearing your penguin suit and dusting it off. I don't know where it was, in the cupboard somewhere, and it was Niall who spoke about me. And Niall said he was the best player that I'd ever played with, and Peter Reid and Colin Henry both said I was the best player that they'd played with, and that I was in their 11 on Sky as well. They've done it. Both said it again. So you get some really touching messages, and it does make you look back with a sense of pride, And I have got my award, although I don't put things out. It's somewhere, but it's somewhere private place that only I know. It's probably there, but yeah, it's special, and having picture taken with my children by that picture. My name on the stadium was taken by a big Blue called Kevin Cummins. Haven't you come across Kev?
Know the name?
Yeah. Kev. Yeah. Kev's an iconic photographer in the music world, and he's a cracking fella, and he took some pictures from a testimonial actually that were very evocative, but also this picture which I've got at home, and so I've got memories, and it's like a different era, a different time where you are remembered for what you did and what you were able to achieve, all the positives. And that gave me such a lift and such a sense of pride. And whenever I'm in the stadium, you almost forget sometimes that your name's up there. And I've not even told Pep yet, but I've got time to tell Pep if I see him next and say, by the way, do you know my name's up there? But I'd never do that. But no, it's such a lovely feeling that's something that whatever happens, what anyone ever says when you play 130 games, that I can look back and say, well, you know, I was remembered by quite a lot of Blues, and hopefully I did enough to make people realise that on my day I was half decent. That's
an understatement, Paul. Remembered by a lot of Blues. Yeah, if you don't know Paul, like you're not a Blue as far as I'm concerned. Is the best player you never saw? Was that a bit of a play on words for your book as well? I'm not really here. Is that where that came from?
Well, no. The title for the book came from the fact that, if you can imagine, I was injured, and seasons would come and go. And by the start of the 4th season of me not starting and having to wear a new kit, it was the most hurtful thing that could ever happen. Because if you think about it, everyone's there with the new kit on, and they're talking about pre-season, and they're talking about the start of the season and this, that, and the other. And I was leaving them to drive to Lilleshall again. That was so. We'll talk about being on a completely different space, and it's hard to hide your body language when you're so miserable, And I was with a full kit on, and I was at whatever I was positioned, and I was just miles away. And the photographer said to me, Mr. Lake, are you with us? I said, no, I'm not really here. And it was nothing to do with the song. It was that was in my head, and that's the reason for the book. And that's when you saw the book cover, it's a jigsaw puzzle with a piece of me taken away, because I was part of it and yet I wasn't. So there was lots of a thought process in my wife and I to go through the book. And every chapter title is a Manchester band's song, but it also underpins the very nature of each chapter.
I love that. We're going to put a link to your book on Amazon, and for anybody watching this that hasn't read it, it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quid, whatever it is. It's still, and I'm looking at the reviews now. Some of the reviews, the best footballing autobiography ever.
Easy.
Paul, that's pretty impressive, that, pal. And it's nearly 5 stars. 173 reviews, nearly 5 stars. People liked that book, Paul. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was nice, and again, lots of the journals and the broadsheets and the tabloids, gave us a really nice kind of testimonial. Certainly, Danny Taylor, he was the first person, and then Oliver Holt and the Mirror, and then the Times and the Guardian, and the list was endless. But it was the London Metro was one of the most read papers in the country, and we got a bizarre message from this guy saying, Paul, I liked your book, and that was almost pretty much it. And then he sent the quote, which was in the London papers, saying, "Best football biography ever." And it was like, wow, and the attention we had at the time, and it was also the start, which is also lovely, is it's the start of my wife's writing career. And Joanna, since she's actually had 5 books published now, from Tom Watson, the ex-deputy leader of the Labour Party, through to David White, Howard Webb, the World Cup referee. So Jo's got a real sort of, she's a real force in terms of the kind of writing world, and it stemmed from our book. So it might have been the end or the kind of the write-off of my career, but it was certainly the start of hers.
Brilliant. Yeah. Did she help write that then? Did she help write that?
Yeah. Well, I obviously it's my memoirs, and I'm the raconteur, but Joanne's the writer.
Brilliant.
She's such a talented writer.
Powerfully written as well, so obviously she can get the emotion over really well. Obviously, being the partner as well, that's brilliant. Listen, I've really enjoyed it, but we've just got, if you don't mind, a few more minutes. We've got some questions that have come in from people. Obviously, we put this out on social media that you were coming on. Do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions? If that's all right?
Yes, okay.
Some left field ones. Best player you've ever played with at the club? Now, I'm thinking, from my memory, you've got your Quinnies, your Reed, Poynton, Coates, Ward, as Dave mentioned before. Who were the best players that you played with?
Well, certainly, you mentioned. Quinny was obviously as a centre forward and a target man. He was very, very intelligent. He had the lads that I grew up with. Andy Hinch, who's got the left foot that could rewire the back of a PC. You've got Steve Redmond, who was one of the most footballing centre halves I've ever come across. Whitey, Whitey's pace and his finishing, was on his day was incredible. But for me, it was Ian Bishop. Ian Bishop was such a balanced footballer, and he could pass the ball anywhere on the pitch. He had a great character, a great manner about him, and it was just a pleasure to play alongside him. So of all the players, and there were some top players in there, but for me, Bish was the one.
Do you still keep in touch?
Well,
he's got a.
We'll have to send this to Bish. And he does his 5 pints with Bish. We talked to him a couple of weeks ago, Paul.
We do messages now and again on social media, but no, he knows I love him.
We were on we're on this podcast about 3 weeks ago, I think, and we're due to go back on again, but we're not allowed on again until we've got 5 pints behind us. So I didn't actually realise that was actually a prerequisite to doing it. But never mind. So this obviously as a blue, this will be a really tricky question for you to answer, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. If you're going to take one player from the current City squad to play alongside, who would it be and why? That's a toughie. Out the squad we've got now, crikey. So should we probably give you more than one option there, shouldn't we?
You know what? Because I ultimately, as much as I enjoy playing in different positions, and I wear every shirt apart from the goalkeepers in my time, but I'd probably say centre half with Fernandinho.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, for me, he's the most calm. I mean, if Vinny was still here, Vinny would just nip in front of him. But Fernandinho, for me, he's got such presence, such football intelligence. He's got a range of passing. He's got that intuitive side to his play. And he's also very demanding of himself and others, but he's hard as nails. Now, I could say David Silva because just in awe of him, but I'd probably just be giving him the ball and leave him to it. Whereas he'd have to play a part to play alongside Fernandinho at the back. But yeah, so there's lots of players that it would be a dream to play alongside. And obviously, Kev, he's probably one of the best midfield players in the world at the moment, and no one can possibly argue against that. Phil Foden, looking how he's progressing, God willing that lad stays fit, there is no end to what he could achieve. And I know for a fact he is the missing link in this England side. 100%.
Yeah.
So, but I'd have to say Fernandinho out of everyone. Yeah.
Doesn't Phil look like he's grown up a bit in the last 3 or 4 months? It looks like he's got a bit more meat on him. He looks a bit more sturdy the other night.
Well, I just think, I mean, regardless of that, and again, you're right. He is all those things, but it's just the football intelligence. And someone can talk about the game and can give a different insight in different languages. But when you see him on the pitch, what you notice about Phil Foden, which is natural, is that he passes the ball in such a way that when a player receives it, they receive it on the move. So it's not in the middle of someone's foot, it's right on their touch. And a case in point was when he gave, for the Burnley goal, where he gave him the eye and he put Bernardo in.
Yeah,
that is a typical pass of Phil. And if you watch the weight of the pass and the feel of the pass, and that's what David Silva has, he has a feel. And Phil has got that very thing. When you have a feel with that intuition, you're going to be one of the world's best footballers. And Phil Foden could be that good.
I don't know what to say to that. I can't agree with you anymore. I'm genuinely excited to see his career progress. It's going to be fantastic, isn't it? Last question. What was your favourite game for City?
My favourite game? Making my debut as captain was one that is right up there, but without a shadow of a doubt, the derby, the 5-1 derby, for lots of reasons, and finally, as much as every game that you can think of, you had your good games and your bad games, and the sort of marquee games of the derbies, but it was the fact that all my mates were on the pitch, and the fact that I was with those lads from being right off and being 10 years of age, to come right the way through and for us all to progress and for us all to do well. And I was the last out of all of us to make it into the first team, by the way. So for us all to be on that pitch and to beat United in such a convincing way, and to have that memory that we're all together before the game, during the game, after the game, and those memories and those experiences, it's something that I can look back on with such fond memories and a real sense of pride. And I think that's what Tony Buckle, Pardo, Ken Barnes all have in equal measures, because they saw us at our lowest as well as at our best, and it's those shared experiences that stay with you forever.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Honestly, I could talk to you all night, Paul, and I know you've got a family to go back to and have a chat and drink your non-alcoholic beer. But obviously, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
No, it's a pleasure, guys. It's been a real pleasure. I enjoyed it.
David,
this is just one off my bucket list, really, Paul. I have met you twice. I was so starstruck. I introduced you to my son many, many years ago. You were at the Etihad. I think it was Boxing Day many years. We beat Palace 1-0, and I said to my boy, "God, if you're half the player this Paul is, then I'll be happy with that as your dad." And then I was that starstruck. You took a picture with my son, and I forgot. I actually bumped into you last December at the derby. I actually bumped into Tom as well and said, "I'm so sorry, Paul. Like I didn't take a photo with you years ago. Do you mind?" But I think, for my generation of, these 30, 40, 50-year-olds, you remember, you're just an absolute legend for the club and, the love that you have for the club. And for us lucky enough to have seen you play and know, you probably hear, Paul, as well, little whispers in pubs and things that you're one of the players who we always say he would get in Pep Guardiola's team now. I firmly believe that. So I get my final question would be, if you play in Pep's team, you really want that central defensive position. Is there another player who you played with? You talked about Pep's intensity and the level you've got to be at. The players 80 through 90, 91 who you played with. Is the one who you think you go apart from yourself? They could have made it in Pep's team. Would it be Bishop, to your point, because he had that technical ability, or who do you think would walk into a Pep team now?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question.
Really good question.
And it's one that I've got to be honest, I've not really thought about in that much detail. But you'd probably say that in terms of the technical expectations of Pep, I'd probably say a young Ian Bishop, because obviously the physical expectation that Pep would have would mean that you'd have to really be able to get about the pitch, and certainly as a young Ian Bishop could do that, and he could play equally comfortably left side and right side, but again, I think there's a lot of players that could quite easily fit into that particular team, because as you win the ball back and you give it to David, you win the ball back and you give it to Kev, you win the ball back and you give it to Gabriel, or it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? It's like there's that many good players around you, and you'd also raise to their standards too, so you get a real sense of it. When you see the young players that we've got in the squad now, I mean, Phil certainly, and Taylor Bellis is training with the first team, and Tommy Doyle has played a few games, and Tommy looks comfortable, and Tommy's probably as good, if not a better passer of the ball than Ian Bishop. So Tommy's got loads of potential. It'll be a few years yet, I would imagine, but Tommy's got great chance as well.
Oh,
brilliant.
Paul, would you do us a favour? We're going to start doing, obviously we do this on podcasts and so forth, but would you, I feel really cheeky asking this, but would you mind saying, "I'm Paul Lake and this is the Manchester is Blue show," just so we can use it for clips? Would that be possible?
Certainly, yes. So say that again, sorry, because I was...
or something along the lines of, "This is Paul Lake and this is the Manchester is Blue show."
The Manchester with Blue show.
No, Manchester is Blue.
Yeah, Manchester. I couldn't hear what you said there, Manchester. I thought it was that. Yeah. So okay. So am I speaking now?
Yeah, go for it.
So my name is Paul Lake, and you're listening to the Manchester is Blue show.
Brilliant. That's perfect, pal. We'll clip this in and out. And I want to tell you something. I completely forgot about this until Dave mentioned it. I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I very drunkenly wandered up to you and two mates in the King's Ransom in Sale and bought you all a Sambuca. And I tell you what, that's one thing I remember. You were very thankful at the time as well.
Brilliant.
Listen, thanks so much for your time. Have a lovely evening, Paul, and thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Nice to speak to you guys.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, he's made an old man incredibly happy.
I think we've peaked.
I'm kind of pinching myself there. Just I think you and I have been like that for most of the last hour, Tom, just because he is, you know, I know we've got younger fans who, you know, don't recognise or don't know Paul, but believe me, you know, speak to your parents, grandparents, that what a player Paul Lake was, and the way he talked about his rehab, and really the lack of support that he got over that period, that brings a tear to my eye, because that would not happen nowadays at City or, you know, at any club really. And to think of what if this operation had been done right first time and they'd been done the homework, we could have had Paul Lake back and the Paul Lake back, you know, 6 to 9 months later. And I mean, he's just a legend to me, and always will be.
What was Swales thinking? Do you know what? I was very much on the edge, on the fence with thoughts about Paul Swales, with Peter Swales, with regards to my opinion of him. But I can't get my head around why you would just leave a player with that potential, that talent, even then, and the potential talent he had, to sit on an injury without getting properly treated. And I tell you what, it was for financial reasons.
Yeah, and I think really as well, you know, I don't think there's any excuse, Tom, because correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Peter Swales part of the FA as well? Wasn't he on the FA committee, Swales? So sure. He must have known. He will have spoken to Sir Bobby. He would have talked to Graham Taylor. Like, he would have known the esteem that these England managers and, you know, other coaches held Paul Lake in. You know, to be told, just get back to fitness, Paul, you're going to be my England captain. How Peter Swales does not think, all right, well, we need to give him every possibility, every chance possible, no matter what the cost, to get Paul Lake back.
Honestly, there's so many. I'm going to watch this again tomorrow. Obviously, when I'm doing some editing, I'm going to listen to it all over again. And there's so much to listen. It's like reading a book. I need to read it 2 or 3 times just to digest everything that he said within that.
Yeah, so eloquent. You know, because I think obviously most City fans will run up to Paul and, "Oh, I love you. You were great," and yeah, you know, thank you. And he'll tell a little anecdote, you know, obviously about the derby or something like that. The level of detail that he kindly has just gone into with us now, I'm blown away. I respected him before. I respected him, you know, even more now. What a lovely man, and what a player he was.
Yeah, and he talked so well about what he's doing now, and he's after injury and going into football. And he's got such a love for football. And it comes across in absolute spades that he's obviously got a massive love for football, and he enjoys what he's doing, and he loves being involved in it still. So fair play to him, because other people could quite easily chuck the towel in, go and do something else, but he still wants to get involved. He loves the players. He loves getting involved in the going to the academies and seeing everything about it. I need to look into a bit more detail about what his actual job role is, because that sounds fascinating at the start.
It really does. It just, I'm you know, I said that I'd be a bit tongue-tied when we found out we were getting Paul Lake on the show, and I'm still reeling, to be perfectly honest. You know, what I found really interesting was, you know, when he's talking about the current team that he's so excited about as well, and he's really almost talking like we do at Manchester is Blue, you know, about it. You know, as he said, you know, he's moved into that fan role rather than being, you know, an ex-player, and his, you know, on his thoughts on it. So, I mean, it was just awesome to kind of hear how excited he is by, you know, not only the current team that we've got, and, you know, but, you know, the Doyles and the Fodens, and, you know, coming through as well. But, I mean, you cut him open, he'll bleed blue. And yeah, I 100%. Love that.
He's one of us, isn't he? Great.
Yeah.
Great. So listen, Paul, if you're watching this again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm going to drop you a quick text and say the same thing, and I'll buy you another Sambuca next time I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I won't bug you again for yet another photo with you. So
brilliant. That once it done. Right. Well, you better crack on, pal, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right. City till we die.
Bye, boy. Bye.
See you later.
Just a quick request, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and leave a comment to let us know what you think of the interview. I do listen to and read all the comments, so your feedback is warmly welcomed. Thanks, Blues.